Hey there. Are you ready to unlock like your inner entrepreneur?
I love that.
We're diving deep into The Creator's Code by Amy Wilkinson,
Okay.
a book that is just chock full of insights from some seriously impressive minds.
Yeah.
Um, we're talking about the masterminds behind brands like Starbucks, Spanx, and Facebook.
And the great thing about this book is that it's not just about like admiring these business giants, from afar.
Right.
It's about really extracting those golden nuggets of wisdom
Yeah,
that anyone, whether you're launching a startup or you're just like brainstorming your next big idea,
totally.
can use to fuel their own creative fire.
I love that. So it's less about become the next Mark Zuckerberg and more about tap into your own unique brand of genius, right?
Exactly. It's about giving you the tools and the inspiration to kind of carve your own path.
Yeah.
And Wilkinson does this by breaking down what she calls the 6 essential skills of extraordinary entrepreneurs.
Okay, I am so ready to dive into these skills. Where do we even begin?
Well, she kicks things off with a concept she calls spotting the gap. And it's all about how entrepreneurs identify those golden opportunities. She uses this really cool analogy of sunbirds, architects, and integrators to describe like different approaches to this.
Ooh, I love a good analogy. Break it down for me.
Okay, so imagine a sunbird. They spot like a delicious piece of fruit on one tree,
Okay.
and then they fly over and they pollinate another tree with it, right? Spreading that goodness around.
Okay.
Sunbird entrepreneurs are kind of like that.
Okay.
They take a proven solution that's working really well in one market, and then they kind of transplant it to a new market that's ripe for the picking.
That makes total sense. It's
Yeah.
like taking something people already love and introducing it to a whole new audience.
Exactly.
Give me an example from the book.
So Wilkinson talks about Howard Schultz and Starbucks.
Okay.
He was just completely captivated by the vibrant cafe culture that he experienced in Italy.
Yeah.
And he realized that something similar was missing back home in the U.S.
Right.
Like there wasn't that same kind of communal coffee experience. So he saw that as a gap, and he filled it.
He essentially brought a taste of Italy to America Genius.
Exactly. He saw a gap, and he adapted the Italian model for the American market.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if someone's thinking, okay, I want to be a sunbird entrepreneur, what should they be on the lookout for?
It's all about paying attention. What products, services, or experiences do you love that you think are missing in your own community or industry?
Hmm.
Can you think of a way to kind of adapt or tailor those to a new audience?
It's like finding inspiration in unexpected places. I love it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the sunbird approach.
Mhm.
What about these architect entrepreneurs?
Architects are all about building something totally new.
All right.
They see a problem that hasn't been solved or maybe hasn't been solved well, and they design innovative solutions from the ground up.
I'm already thinking Spanx Sarah Blakely. She saw a need for comfortable and effective shapewear, and she just went for it, even though she didn't have a background in fashion.
Exactly. She
Yeah.
saw that gap in the market and she built something amazing to fill it. And that's a really powerful lesson right there.
Yeah.
Don't let what you don't know be a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not being bound by conventional thinking is an advantage.
I love that.
Uh,
Okay, so we've got sunbirds, we've got architects. What about these integrators?
So integrators are the masterminds who blend existing elements in unexpected and innovative ways.
Okay.
They're like those chefs who take familiar ingredients and combine them to create a whole new culinary masterpiece.
Okay, I need a business example here. What's an integrator company?
Think about like the rise of luxury SUVs.
Okay.
They combine the ruggedness and the off-road capabilities of a traditional SUV,
Yes.
like the comfort, the style, the features of a high-end car.
And it was a hit. People love that they don't have to choose between practicality and luxury. They can have both.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the integrator approach.
Yeah.
Finding those surprising combinations that really resonate with a whole new segment of consumers.
So for all the entrepreneurs listening out there, it seems like a good first step is to figure out, what kind of opportunity spotter am I?
Absolutely.
Are you drawn to adapting existing models, inventing something totally new, or finding those like unexpected combinations?
Yeah, understanding your own entrepreneurial style can really help you kind of focus your energy and your ideas.
So you've got your brilliant idea, you've spotted the gap you want to fill. What's next?
Well, Wilkinson emphasizes that you shouldn't wait for the perfect moment to start.
Easier said than done, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
And she actually uses a fantastic story to illustrate this point.
Okay.
It's the story of Hamdi Ulukaya and the rise of Chobani yogurt.
Oh, yes. I love good entrepreneurial origin story. He bought an abandoned yogurt factory, right?
He did. Everyone thought he was crazy.
Really?
But Ulukaya had this vision for making really authentic Greek-style yogurt more widely available here in the U.S.
He saw the potential in something that wasn't getting a lot of attention at the time.
Exactly. And he took a massive leap of faith learning the business as he went. And in just a few short years, he transformed Chobani from producing a few thousand cases a week to millions.
Wow.
Completely revolutionizing the yogurt market.
That is incredible. What a testament to the power of taking action, even when you don't necessarily have all the answers yet.
Absolutely. The Chobani story teaches us that sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all.
So true.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in that, like, overthinking and over-planning.
Oh, totally.
But sometimes you just got to dive in.
So true.
Right.
But it's not like you just jump in totally blindly,
Yeah.
right? You still need some kind of roadmap, especially when you're navigating the often unpredictable waters of, starting a business.
Absolutely. And that's where Wilkinson's next skill comes in.
Okay.
Mastering the OODA loop.
The what now, OODA loop? That sounds kind of intense.
It's not as intimidating as it sounds, I promise.
Okay.
It stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act.
Okay.
It's a decision-making framework that's especially useful in, like, rapidly changing, uncertain environments, like, say, the world of startups.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So walk me through it. How would an entrepreneur actually use this OODA loop thing?
Okay, so imagine you've just launched your product
Okay.
and you're getting some early feedback from customers.
Okay.
Right, that's your observe phase.
Yeah.
You're paying close attention to what's happening around you.
Gathering data.
Exactly, you're gathering data. Then you orient yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
You take that feedback and you see how it aligns with, like, your goals, your understanding of the market.
Okay.
Maybe you realize that a key feature isn't really landing the way that you thought it would.
So you're making sense of the information that you've gathered.
Exactly. And that leads to the decide phase.
Okay.
Based on what you've observed and how you've oriented yourself, what adjustments do you need to make?
Do you scrap the feature entirely? Do you tweak it? Do you pivot in a totally new direction?
Exactly.
Lots of options.
Right, and then you act on that decision.
Okay.
But here's the key. It's a loop.
I was going to say, where does the loop come in?
Right, you're constantly observing, orienting, deciding, acting, and then repeating that cycle as needed.
So it's about being adaptable and responsive.
Yeah.
You're not just like clinging to your original plan no matter what.
Yeah.
You're willing to kind of course correct based on what you're learning along the way.
Exactly. And Wilkinson uses a really great example to illustrate this.
Okay.
The early days of YouTube.
Yeah.
Did you know that they actually started as a dating site?
Wait, seriously, YouTube? That's wild. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they were savvy enough to observe how people were actually using the platform.
Okay.
They noticed users were uploading all sorts of videos.
Okay.
Funny clips, tutorials, music, not just dating profiles.
So they were in that observe phase, saw a trend kind of like emerging.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
they oriented themselves, realizing that, like, their initial vision for the platform wasn't necessarily aligning with how people wanted to use it.
And they made the decision to pivot, a pretty massive one at that. And the rest is history.
Exactly. It's such a powerful example of how embracing that OODA loop, constantly learning and adapting, can lead to incredible outcomes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is a lot to process. So for anyone listening, think about a recent challenge that you faced.
Yeah.
How could you have used this OODA loop to kind of navigate it more effectively?
That's a great point. It's all about putting these principles into action.
Yeah. But let's be real, making those tough decisions, especially in the face of uncertainty, can be pretty daunting.
Absolutely. And that actually leads us to Wilkinson's next essential skill,
Okay.
which might be the most important one of all,
What'd you say?
embracing failure.
Ooh, that's a big one. And probably the one that a lot of us struggle with the most, right?
No, absolutely.
No one likes to fail. It's like this icky feeling, especially when you're pouring your heart and soul into a project.
It's completely natural to fear failure, but
Yeah.
Wilkinson argues that we need to reframe how we think about it.
Okay, how do we do that?
Instead of seeing it as like a full stop,
Yeah,
we need to view it as a comma, like a pause, a chance to learn and adjust.
easier said than done, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
How do we actually shift our mindset to embrace those failures as valuable learning experiences?
Right.
Well, Wilkinson shares a few great anecdotes in the book that I think really drive this point home.
Okay, let's hear it.
For instance, did you know that Alfred Hitchcock shot the iconic shower scene in Psycho
Yeah.
78 times
78 times.
to get it just right?
You're telling me even Hitchcock, the master of suspense, had to embrace the process of trial and error.
Absolutely. It just goes to show that setbacks are a natural part of the creative process, even for the greats.
Totally.
It's all about how you learn from those experiences and keep iterating.
So it's not about avoiding failure altogether, but about changing our relationship with it, like viewing it as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block.
Exactly. And to kind of further illustrate this point, she talks about Spanx founder Sarah Blakely's upbringing.
Okay.
Her father had this really interesting ritual. He used to ask her every single day, "What did you fail at today?"
Wow, I love that. That's such a powerful way to normalize failure and encourage a growth mindset from such a young age.
Exactly. By reframing failure as a learning opportunity, you free yourself to experiment and take risks.
Yeah.
Which is essential for any entrepreneur.
It takes the pressure off,
Yeah.
right? It's like you're giving yourself permission to stumble, knowing that those stumbles are actually moving you forward.
Precisely. And speaking of moving forward, Wilkinson also talks about the power of collaboration and building strong networks,
Okay.
which is something that entrepreneurs, I think, should never underestimate.
That makes a lot of sense. It's rare for groundbreaking work to happen in isolation, isn't it?
It's true.
It takes a village, or at least a pretty solid team.
Right. She actually points out that most Nobel Prizes in science these days are awarded to teams, not individuals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It speaks to the powers like bringing diverse perspectives and skill sets to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite example of a team effort that really impressed you?
Well, Wilkinson talks about the code breakers at Bletchley Park during World War II.
Oh, yeah?
They were tasked with cracking that infamous Enigma code.
Right. It was like the German code, right?
Exactly. And, it wasn't just like your typical mathematicians and cryptographers.
Right. I feel like I read something about how it was a very diverse group of people.
You're right. They had linguists, crossword puzzle experts, even historians.
Wow.
All working together, each bringing their own unique talents to the table.
And they were ultimately successful because of that diversity of thought and expertise.
Absolutely.
It's a good reminder that sometimes our greatest strengths lie in the areas where we might think we're not experts.
That's a great point. And Wilkinson also points to the power of online networks like LinkedIn,
Okay.
which provides incredible opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals.
Right.
Share ideas, support each other's endeavors.
It's interesting to think of LinkedIn as being built on this foundation of mutual support.
That's exactly what Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, envisioned, right? It's about recognizing that we can achieve more together than we ever could alone.
So it's not just about what others can do for you, but also about how you can contribute your own skills and knowledge to help others.
Yeah,
What goes around comes around, right?
exactly. It's about fostering those relationships and approaching networking with a spirit of generosity.
Totally.
You never know where those connections might lead.
It really is true. You never know. And like you said, those connections can be so valuable. This has been such an inspiring deep dive.
You really have.
Wilkinson really lays out, I feel like, such a practical roadmap for anyone who wants to unleash their inner innovator.
I couldn't agree more. She gives you the tools to, like you said, identify opportunities, navigate uncertainty, reframe failure, and then build that supportive network.
It's so easy to get caught up in the glamour of entrepreneurship.
Totally.
But the creator's code, I think, really gets at the heart of what it actually takes to turn those big ideas into something real. It's about action adaptability. And like you've been saying, embracing the journey with all of its
Shambles and all.
Exactly. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, and surrounding yourself with the right people because, as Wilkinson reminds us, we don't have to do it alone.
So true.
Yeah.
So for all the aspiring creators out there listening, we want to leave you with this. What's one small step that you can take today to kind of put these principles into action?
Maybe it's jotting down that business idea you've been tossing around or reaching out to someone in your network for advice. Or maybe it's even just giving yourself permission to fail forward.
Yes.
The world needs your creativity.
Beautifully said. And if you're looking for that extra dose of inspiration, be sure to check out The Creator's Code by Amy Wilkinson. You can find links to the book and other resources in our show notes. And that's a wrap on this deep dive into igniting your entrepreneurial spirit. We hope you're feeling inspired and empowered to embrace your own unique creator journey. Until next time.